Welcome to today's episode. I'm here with Douglas Ward, Strategic Corporate Leadership Consultant. Douglas, welcome to the Growth Podcast, my man. Happy to have you here.
Hey, I appreciate it, Aaron. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So Douglas, you and I have been chatting for a quick moment, getting to know each other, and I'm really excited about this episode. Leadership is something that everybody is interested in, and there's polarizing views on it, and I'm excited to talk about it myself. So I'm very excited for this. Thanks for being here. Before we jump in, for the listeners and the viewers who don't know you quite as well as I do, would you mind telling us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I started my career. I come from a military family, so I started the career in the Marine Corps in 1987. After I got out of the Marines, eventually I transitioned to the Navy. I retired out of the Navy in 2013. So it was, over 20 years. And as I grew as a leader, when I first joined the Marines, I just wanted to be a Marine. I didn't think about leadership in the sense of, I just want to be a Marine. I knew that since I was like a sophomore in high school. And as I progressed up through leadership, my first leadership role, I was a corporal in the Marines. There was actually a fear of being a leader. But to be a Marine, that's eventually going to be part and parcel. That's going to be part of the plan. So you have to take that, because a lot of times you're at that young age, you're supervising your peers. These are people that are just either coming out of high school, or they're people that you've served with for a couple of years. So you're very close to them, and actually having to supervise them, people that were your friends, now all of a sudden you're in charge. It starts teaching you a lot about responsibility, because now all of a sudden you have all these people and you have to apply fairness across the board, even the people that you didn't hang out with. So that was one of the first learning lessons, was getting over that fear and being able to be not just fair, but also letting the people know that you were closest to at the time that you can't give them favoritism. That was one of the first things, was trying to be able to do that as a young man. And as I moved on through the ranks, I got more responsibility. There was a time where I had over 500 sailors. So it got to a point where I had junior leaders under me who had to spread all the word out to everybody on the things that needed to be done. But I also had to keep an eye on them to make sure they were doing things correctly and treating everybody with fairness and those type of things. So it was a huge growth process. And then, of course, when you get in more into senior leadership, you're basically advising like the CEO and the C-suite on exactly what's going on. And you have to give them unfiltered advice, whether they want it or not. Sometimes you have to kind of watch how you word it, but you've got to be able to get those words out and the ideas, because that's what's going to help the company grow. But at the same time, it's what's going to keep the company out of trouble, making bad decisions, because you're the one down there more closer to where the ground truth is, where the rubber meets the road. It could be a production company, it could be a service you're providing. That leadership that's down at that level, you have to be getting unfiltered, unbiased truth. So those are some of the things, a lot of the things I learned. You also have to look at the type of people you're supervising. When I was in special operations doing communications, and, I was privileged to be able to work with the Navy SEALs as one of their communications personnel. And there was a very small group of us that got selected for that. When we did that, the experience level of the guys was extremely high. The only thing we really had to worry about so much was, because it was such an alpha male heavy environment, was the egos. Whereas when I was with more junior people in the Navy or from the other services, they were all, and this is even in the corporate world, that experience level, as they have less experience, you have to find different ways to lead them. You have to find different ways to relate. And it's not just relating. Sometimes you have to break things down for them 5 different ways to Sunday. You might tell them something and they don't understand. So you have to figure out a way to get them to understand. And that's usually a challenge. And I remember seeing some guys, they just had a problem. They'd get really frustrated. And I said, hey, did you think about talking to them this way? Did you think about doing this? These are the things you need to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much there. Hey, like, before we jump into, I want to know a lot. I want to talk about ego for sure, because I know a lot of people deal with ego either consciously or subconsciously. Sometimes you don't even know your ego's, sabotaging your results. So let's talk about that in a moment. But from a personal perspective, you know, back when you were in that world and you're entering it and you're rising up, you know, that's a stressful growth curve, I would assume. You know, it's not the most casual environment, right? Um, what drove you back then? What was the burning desire to jump into this and lead?
The thing is, when you get the opportunity to lead, you don't want to pass it up, because sometimes, you know, there's the old saying, opportunities are fleeting.
Hmm.
For myself, you know, once I took over and I got into those leadership positions, you know, there was times I was humbled, because you get into it and you don't understand, because mentally you're just not as mature, and you let your ego get in the way, or your pride, because you want to be able to be seen as a good leader.
Hmm.
So you might kind of overplay a heavy hand and how you deal with people. And that kind of doesn't work out. That kind of backfires on you pretty quick. And then that's when you will get maybe a little pushback from the senior leadership on you, saying, hey, what's the problem here? You know,
Hmm.
you need to grow up a little bit. You know, and there was a few times I was humbled. It was just because I just didn't have the maturity at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Is it classified information, or can you tell us some of those examples?
Yeah, it's not classified information. No, some of the humbleness I had, and was dealing with guys and trying to make sure that I wasn't showing favoritism.
Hmm.
And then there was also delegating with trust. You know, and this act, the delegating with trust, actually happened when I was in my last assignment. I brought in some guys. We were starting up a new communications program, and I needed experienced people because it was a very experienced troop. I was going to be the senior exec in that position. And as I am leading these guys, I wasn't really leading. I wasn't even delegating to them, and they were asking for stuff to do. So basically I brought in all these pipe hitters, and I'm trying to flip them out to do stuff, but I wasn't delegating the things they needed to do. So what happened was they ended up pulling me in a room and basically let me have it. Now these guys are basically my peers, but I was selected as the lead of the peers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was very shocked, and I'm looking at them like, you've got to be kidding me. And I actually thought about it. I'm like, yeah. And they said, hey, you know, why are we here? We'll just go back to where we came from, because you're not letting us do anything. So we
Hmm.
went out to lunch, you know, had a big breakdown on this, and I assigned everybody everything that needed to be done, and everything got done. But here's the blessing in that, because they called me out, it made me realize I wasn't delegating with trust. Now you always follow up, right? But I wasn't delegating with trust. What happened was I ended up having a reduction in work hours and less stress, because I wasn't trying to do everything myself.
Hmm.
And that was very huge on me, both, you know, professionally and personally. You
Definitely.
know, I actually got more time at home with my family, with my daughters, with my wife. You know, we had time to actually go out and see a movie, things of that nature, because I wasn't always at work trying to think I had to do everything.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. You know, that's happened to me as well a few times. Feeling like the weight's on your shoulders and you should pretty much, you know, if it's got to get done, I'll just do it. Or, you know, I'll take care of telling who to do what, when in reality, delegating with trust. I like that saying. That's a good saying, delegating with trust. So I guess that was a paradigm shift for you a little bit in your leadership style. Hey?
Yeah, it was, because when I look back on it, that was huge, because I had matured. But what had happened is I had fallen back into the rut that thinking you have to do everything yourself.
Hmm.
And when you trust people and you build a team around you, if you know, listen, you bring in pipe hitters, you got to let them swing the pipe.
When you say pipe hitters, what are you referring to?
So
I'm thinking snipers. I'm thinking like,
no, like I'm talking about when you drink, like, and this is any job there is.
yeah, yeah.
You know, you got somebody like yourself and what you do, and some of your guests, they're all pipe hitters in a related field.
Mm,
That means, you know, they're rock stars.
mm.
Bring in rock stars, let them sing the music, let them play, let the band play, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everyone play to their strengths and you run with your strength and do your thing. You know, you have the field, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, very interesting. It's an important lesson. That's an important lesson in leadership for sure. Okay, so let's talk about ego because it's always a super interesting topic. We all deal with ego, especially when you start getting some success or you start getting some seniority or ranking up or whatever it may be in your niche. Ego can step in and self sabotage you, right? You have worthiness issues and things that you can't deal with, and it knocks you back down. Or maybe they just don't want to be told what to do because they don't enjoy delegation. How do you deal with ego as a leader from, I guess, your ego and then also the ego of the people you're leading?
So when it would come to myself as a
Mm,
leader, I would, you got to watch getting into a position where you think you are your position. It's knowing who you are. You can't relate who you are as a person to that position.
mm,
You have to be able to make a separation. And a lot of people can't do that. So if you go into a lot of companies, people say, oh, well, he's the CEO of X, Y, and Z. He's got the parking spot out in front of the company.
mm.
You have to be able to separate, because if you are fired from that job, guess what? You're back to being what, Aaron?
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to be able to understand and control your ego when you're dealing with other people. For example, when I had all my guys together and we were dealing with all the different egos, basically what I would try to do is, make sure everybody understands and has the respect for everybody else, but basically get everybody to understand each one of them has strengths and weaknesses, and we can humble you very quickly by pointing out the weaknesses. But what we used to like to do was bring everybody's strengths together, and everybody's strengths complemented the other person's weakness. And
Yeah,
when you make
perfect.
them understand that, that's huge.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Um, yeah. Would you argue that's one of the biggest like roadblocks or hurdles to face in leadership roles is dealing with egos and personalities that way?
Yeah, I would say that's probably one of the biggest ones is when you have a lot of strong, especially if you have a workplace with a lot of strong egos.
Mm,
Because when you have a lot of strong egos, that's when things can go sideways. That's when you can have a lot of things, people trying to undermine the actual person in charge. Maybe they want to move up.
mm,
I always try to tell, say you have a corporate suite, the C level suite of executives, they need to understand, pass down to their managers, their junior executives. Hey, this is how leadership works. I don't care if you want my job or not. What's the defining factor is how you treat your people and what they do, productivity, profitability, and the morale. I want to see, that's basically going to be the baseline judgment on you
mm.
is how are your people working? Yeah, you could be breaking all these sales records, but then, you're constantly having an inflow and outflow of people because people are quitting. So then when you actually start looking at the profit and loss and, your return on investment with that division, you start finding out what you've got some costs going out that you didn't anticipate because of what? Because of people leaving and having to hire new people. So there's this constant flow of money getting changed right there that shouldn't be going out.
Yeah. And wasted time on training and SOPs and everything, right?
Yes.
Mm. Yeah, totally. Totally. Okay, so speaking of leadership and management, this is an interesting conversation. I was actually listening to a conversation this morning about this, and I'd like your opinion on it. In your opinion, what's the difference between leadership and management?
Leadership is a function of management.
Hmm.
Management is the ability to oversee your production, your services, and all of that with the people. Your leadership comes into play when you actually have to make decisions that affect people's lives, that might, that are affecting profitability. It's a decision that's going to take the company down a certain road. You're using your leadership to also persuade. I don't like to say manipulate because manipulate's a bad word when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to people, but you're basically getting them to understand why they have to do things. Good leadership is basically able to articulate everything you want to do and basically understanding. Here's the other thing with leadership. The greatest leaders always have what? A great vision.
Hmm.
I pass on to you what this vision is. I get you excited about it because I'm telling you what we're going to do next 1 to 5 years, maybe 10 years. I get you to buy into it because I'm basically getting you to understand where your future is in this. And it's yours to take and run with it. And then what you're doing is it gives you a purpose and an impact every day you come to work. You know the impact you're making.
Yeah. Yeah. You're emotionally incentivizing them and getting them running with the vision, right? You're inspiring their motion. No?
Right. And you get them to understand that. Now, here's the thing, the motivation that you instill, right? You get them to understand with the vision. Motivation, you can motivate them here and there. Motivation is very fleeting. Everybody can get motivated. Yeah, you can get motivated to go to the gym in the morning, or you might not be motivated until you get in the gym and start working out a little bit and the blood's going.
Yeah.
But then it's going to fade off as you're going home. You're getting something to eat to fuel up. Now you've got your work day, right? Now this is where your consistency falls into place in your discipline. They already believe in it. They don't need to get motivated to come in because they believe in the vision. And your vision needs to be short. It shouldn't be any more than 2 sentences. And you want it very short and concise where everybody has buy-in. You don't want like a 3-paragraph vision where it's written up on a wall and no one reads it because it's too damn long and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And it's very wordy, right?
Yeah. And I've seen that, even in companies, you walk in, it's this huge paragraph and you're like, what, like, how's that even fit into what we're doing?
No, they need to take a page out of the biggest, most successful brands out there as far as that goes, like Nike, for example.
Yeah. Nike, you had Apple.
Yeah.
Three
words.
Yeah. Think different, just do it. And people bought into it and they're given a lot of leeway and a lot of latitude to make things happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it sparks you and it's easy to remember. And of course. Right. People you
want people to take ownership.
Yeah. Exactly. So speaking of ownership, you touched on it a minute ago, individuals and their unique strengths, right? So how, like, say for a listener out there now who maybe they have a remote team, like for example, what myself and others do, we have sales teams, right, that are remote teams. So we have, a business over here that we're helping do sales for. And then we'll have like 2 guys in Asia, 2 guys in Australia, a guy in the States, me over here in Europe, and there's a group of us, and we'll be working the account. And then of course there'll be a leader in the group who's kind of overseeing it. Actually, I shouldn't say so much leader, it's more manager because we're all our own leader in that case. We're kind of independent contractors, right? But even in a remote sort of setting, or a setting in, say, an office setting, doesn't really matter either way, playing to unique personalities and strengths, how would a manager or a leader go about pinpointing what people's strengths are, and then actually being able to leverage them? Like, is there a strategy behind figuring out people's strengths?
On written test, there's like the Gallup poll, the Clifton Strengths test, things of that nature. What I like to do, and I've been approached for a few times, so I'm looking into this right now, get my partnerships in place. But it's what I like to do is you get everybody away from the company. Now you can go in and do like what they call lunch and learn. You can go in, maybe do some local training. But when you really want to bring your team together, and if a company can do this, is you take and you get them away from the company. You have training set up where maybe they show up at a hotel. You have the conference rooms lined up. But basically what you're doing is you're getting them away from all the distractions. And it would be like, say, all your managers. You're bringing them together and you're giving them projects and you're putting them through a series of things. And you start seeing who's doing really good, who's doing really bad. Some of it's mental, some of it's not. And there's also the flip side of that is, have a few physical tasks in there. Nothing that's going to give anybody a heart attack because, you get some companies out here, now you got the legal liabilities. What were they going up Mount Rainier for? Now we're not going to climb mountains or anything like that. But you basically want to break down who's good at what, and how you do it a lot of times, but put them all in situations and switch up who's in charge. And you start figuring out who is basically good at what. Because, you'll find out some people are a little stronger in their leadership than the others.
Mm.
It all depends on the situation that you're going to present them in.
Mm. Yeah, that you could be a better leader in a certain situation than in another situation. And then that tells you that is what the person is good at because they're naturally leading in that. Is that pretty much what you mean?
Yes. So for
Mm.
example, if I gave you an administrative task
Mm.
and you say your whole team, now you do the administrative task, you're going to find out real quick, okay, who's really good at administrative stuff,
Mm.
who can really manage that type of stuff.
Mm. Not me.
But
I know that.
but if you take people, right, and
Yeah.
you're running them in, and you maybe got some physical tasks and some other things like that, you start
Yeah.
figuring out, okay, who's got more of the physical leadership where they can react to things and they take charge. So
Mm.
different situations I've seen bring out leadership in people differently.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That makes complete sense. Yeah. That's great. I've wondered that for a while, actually. That's good.
And
Okay.
I just had a conversation. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
No, it's funny. I actually ran into a guy. I was at an event in Charleston back in October.
Yeah.
And, I had a lawyer come up and we were talking, and he said, yeah, I understand you do leadership. So we get into this conversation. He said, what do you think about the leadership gene?
Leadership gene.
Yeah. You either have it or you don't.
Huh.
Like and I kind of thought about it, and I said, I don't believe in it.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that.
Because some people are born leaders. Some people like to say there's born leaders. What I like to say is you can be made a leader. Yeah, you have born leaders. For example, you could have all this talent. So, for example, when I was younger and you see like on football field, you're playing sports and you had a couple of those people that were so talented physically.
Yeah.
But as, academically or along some of those other lines, there's just not.
Yeah.
And the thing with that physical talent, they were identified as a leader because of their talent and because they did really good on like a sports playing field. But when you get them out in regular life, they didn't have a lot of leadership. They were only able to really display it in the sports arena because it was something that they were comfortable with. Being a leader, you can learn it by being around good people and taking the good things you see from all these other people and you fit it into your personality, and then you become a good leader. And it's not going to happen overnight. A lot of it's going to be based on your maturity, especially when you're younger. As you mature, you're going to make a lot of different decisions. Then, like, for example, decisions I made when I was 20, I would not make now.
Yeah, true.
20 something years later, those are decisions I just wouldn't make now. But it's a lifelong learning experience. But you can learn leadership.
Yeah. Well, I believe so. 100%. Of course. I think it's a skill, right? It's a learned skill. The more high quality leaders you surround yourself with, the more you learn about it. I mean, it's clearly a learned skill because we're talking about leadership and how to learn how to be a leader, like right now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's a learned skill because we're literally talking about how to do it. So it's not like it's, your eyes are blue naturally, and we're not going to say you're talking how to make your eyes brown because you can't. Right? You know what I mean? Like this is a learned thing that we're talking about. It's a skill set.
Right. Exactly. It's a learned thing. And also, people need to understand it's not just a learned skill, but it's something you have to continually work at.
Mm-hmm. So it's a self-development journey, really what it is. Right.
Yeah, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't put consistency and discipline with it and keep working at it, eventually your talent will start to decrease, especially like in the physical realm. Yeah. You look at some of the greatest football players there ever were. A lot of them, it wasn't because they were the fastest or anything like that. It was because they worked harder than everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. Hard work beats talent every time, right?
Yes.
Oldest saying in the book.
Yes, there is.
And it's so true. It's so true. Yeah, there's so much to say about that. So in the leadership, speaking of learning about leadership and how to be a great leader, leadership is a fundamental skill in entrepreneurship, right? You have to lead teams, you have to lead yourself, right? You have to lead your organization, all of these things. So for the listeners out there, wondering possibly some cool resources or some books or something, do you have any recommendations on leadership?
One of the biggest things, and I've said this before, there's a book out there. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Classic.
And it's an old book. But Dale Carnegie was basically trying to tell you, you want to be a good leader, you have to be able to relate to people. You have to be able to know how to treat people.
Hmm.
You have to know how to shut up sometimes and just listen. If you read his book, they keep revising it because of the wording. It was written almost
it's funny
100
actually.
years ago.
The original is funny. I like the original. I prefer the original because you feel it. You
actually feel like you're back there, and it's very direct and to the point. But it makes you feel like you're talking, like you and I are just talking right now. Like say we were just sitting there having a beer in Italy.
Yeah,
it would be like us sitting at the bar talking. That's basically how he writes it.
It's conversational.
It's very conversational.
Yeah, it's great. So How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's thick. You're going to want to sit down and take your time on that one.
Yeah, it's a good one though.
It's a good one. It's a very good one. I have the book, obviously I've read it a few times, and I also have the audio book, and I listen to that regularly. I just grab a random chapter and just let it play. It's one of those classics you can literally just repeat, just ingrain it in your mind. It's amazing, especially also, for all walks of life. It does not matter what you're doing. Communication with other humans is paramount for success. Full stop, right? And that's what it is about. That's what the book is about, right?
Yes.
Communication. So it's absolutely amazing. Yeah, that's a great one. Thank you for that. So tell us, you went through your background there, and then you jumped into, consulting and all this stuff. Tell us a little bit about your current business direction, what you have going on now, and how that all kind of came about.
Yeah, I was working in a job, and I just realized this is not what I want to do. And I was working more in the defense industry, and I just kind of wanted to get away from it. I wanted to completely separate from any type of defense work or anything along those lines. And I wanted to follow the things I wanted to do. And I never at first thought I would do a leadership business strategy type of development company. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, why not? I really enjoyed developing people and seeing people succeed. And I enjoyed watching people actually realize there was things they were doing that were actually counterproductive. And when you get them to flip around, and all of a sudden it gets them to dawn on themselves that, maybe I wasn't such a good person. Maybe I wasn't applying knowledge to really help others. Because that's basically what leadership is helping others.
Yeah.
And having some compassion, empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously, maybe some hard leadership when it needs to be applied. Mm-hmm. There's also toxic employees. And sometimes it's being able to get people and get them back on the right track. And when you do that, it's very rewarding because you realize, you actually had a positive impact on that person. And I think, is that selfish? Yeah, that's selfish. But it's feeling good about helping somebody. But, some people say, well, that is a selfish to a point because you made yourself feel good. Yeah, but at the same time, it was a two-way street.
It's win-win, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's win-win. Helping somebody be a better person and feeling good about that is basically,
that's a human reaction.
It's the perfect scenario, right?
Yes.
Like you're both happy and you're both improving.
Yeah, we're all human. We're all human.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah, getting people to feel good. How to win friends and influence people. How to win friends and influence people. Right? How to get them to feel good and understand the communication, what you're saying, and everything. And from a leadership perspective, I gave a small talk in South Africa a few months ago, and my topic was visionary leadership. And I pulled that at the moment I was reading a book by Deepak Chopra, and he was talking about visionary leadership from a very spiritual perspective, but it was talking a lot about leading with vision, obviously, and getting the people on board with the vision and excited for it and how it's going to impact their life. Right. So it's the big macro vision of the company and where it's going, but it's getting them individually fired up for their own passions, their own family, their own why, and connecting that vision to the big long-term vision of the company or whatever it is you're doing. Right. So
yes.
Visionary leadership. What do you think about that general topic, connecting vision?
Yeah, I think that's really huge. And I think one of the best things you can do when you start that out is, for example, say I'm coming in and you're coming into my company and we sit down, I'm gonna say, Aaron, tell me about yourself. Where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself fitting in 1 year?
Mm.
Okay. And then we'd say we have a little discussion about that. And I said, okay, where do you see yourself fitting in 5 years? Okay. All right. Where do you see yourself fitting in 10 years? Now you might sit there and go, well, I hadn't really thought about 10 years. Okay. Well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. This is where I see you fitting in right now, but that can always change. And it's up to you how you want to proceed with this.
Mm.
You basically have an opportunity. I want to see you grow, but you basically want to figure out, and figure out who they are, figure out their likes and dislikes. Because what people need to understand at a company, you really want to get people in on the vision. Look at the company as a bookcase, and every book on that bookcase is an employee. Now, say you got 200 employees and you're CEO. You don't have to know every one of those books, but you should have a summary of each one. It's your lower leaders, how you're training them. They need to have a basic understanding and more in-depth knowledge of those books. Say you got 10 supervisors in 200-person company. And guess what? That gives each one of them a certain group of people. They need to understand more on each one of those books than the CEO. And basically, as you train them, you've got them all believe in the vision. And it's because you're showing a genuine interest in them.
Mm.
It's when, these places that don't have a genuine interest in people and have the empathy and maybe show compassion here and there, you've got to provide those type of things and provide that, and also take, feedback. Always take feedback and register where you are as a company. And you'll know when you walk in, if, say, the CEO or someone high up in the company, if you're walking through and people, start clamming up when you come walking in, that's human nature. Well, guess what? You need to figure that out because you don't want your people doing that type of thing.
No.
And if you get off on that kind of thing, and I've seen people like that,
Me too.
they walk in a room and they expect people, oh, well, if they're talking, they're not working. I've seen that on a few occasions, and it basically over time just eats the morale and everything just starts deteriorating, and no one wants to work for you.
Yeah.
So what's that say to you as an individual and a human being? Listen, you don't have to be liked as a leader, but if you want respect, you've got to respect the people that work for you.
Yeah, that's right. We'll go right back to ego, right? We'll go right back to ego. Yeah, the ego gets the best of you sometimes, and yeah, exactly. So throughout your career and now into doing, your consulting, you're helping out companies with leadership. You have all sorts of amazing stuff happening. On a personal level, focused in on leadership, as dialed in as you are on that, what sort of internal transformation has happened that you've recognized in yourself that maybe you didn't expect?
I didn't expect to start my own company.
Hmm.
I thought maybe I might work for someone, because we're so trained by the school systems and everything, and by a lot of our experiences to not go down the entrepreneurial route.
Hmm.
And I think what happens is there's always that itch in the back of your mind, but most people are too afraid to take it. There's that fear factor. And for me, it's been a huge transformation because not only did I start my company, but now I've also brought in a friend of mine who I thought was very introverted. He's going to be, he was very more quiet. So he's going to be with me as I get ready to start my podcast. So I'm just waiting for Apple to do their final approval with iTunes, right?
Yeah.
But it'll be The Truth with Danger Doug.
Love it. That's awesome.
So it'll be The Truth with Danger Doug and Tommy Guns. And basically, and that was because, he used to lift weights. So he had big arms, the gun.
I can't wait to see the cover photo of that one. That sounds like it's going to be amazing.
Well, we didn't put our pictures on it, but we put like a background to kind of get the point across, and it's got the metal background where that's supposed to be, that's the hard surface. That's where everything happens, in leadership.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be, we're going to be discussing, and it's going to be talking to people with leadership, people that, with a vision, a passion, they're making some type of impact somewhere in the world in the industry. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really huge to get out there. And I think we're going to do it a little different. And it'll be fun. I want to make it, interactive with the guest where, you kind of let your hair down,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like what we're doing here, just kind of just, free flow with it. And
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be cool. Danger
Yeah.
Doug. And what's your buddy's name?
Tommy
Tommy Big
Guns.
Guns? Tommy
Yeah.
Guns.
Well, Tommy Guns. Yeah.
Tommy Guns and Danger Doug. Wow, classic. That's funny. So that's coming out shortly, I guess. So you're just waiting for iTunes
Yeah.
to approve it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I'm waiting for iTunes to do the final approval. I mean, it's been uploaded. It was just a basic, not even a trailer. It was just like a 40-second clip, just so you can get that placeholder in there.
Yeah,
So they can
exactly.
finally say, okay, your graphics, okay, your audio, okay, whether it's good or not. I wasn't really worried about that so much.
Yeah.
It was just getting that placeholder so you can get the final approval.
Yeah,
because I
perfect.
think it's like a 10 to 14 day wait.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's
But I've got it all
exciting.
over.
It's
Yeah.
it's an exciting process. Congratulations. That'll be fun.
No, I appreciate it.
It's a great it's a great platform, Podcasting is a great platform. You get to meet a lot of awesome people, great conversations. I say it all the time. When I have conversations in a podcast environment just like this, I look at this like a mentoring session. I'm always learning something from the guests, and it's always something new and unique because it's a different person every time with different skills and different things and ideas in their brain. And they just give you amazing value. You connect and you can just exchange energy with each other. And you're just having a good time with new people all the time. You're winning friends and influencing people. Right?
No, and you are. And it's funny you say that. I think anybody who doesn't listen to a podcast, I've talked to some people and I say, hey, do you ever listen to podcasts? Like, oh, not really. And one of the things, I had an hour and a half drive to work and I had a 2-hour drive home every day and I hated it. But I got to a point where I would start listening to podcasts because it would take my mind off the traffic. I would get in the slow lane to make sure, I would just say, hey, you know what? Who cares how fast I get there? And I would just listen to podcasts and I would flip through them. I would, like you just came out with yours. So, I've actually listened to some of your episodes, quite a few of your episodes, actually. Cool. It was funny, like right when you came out, you like shot right to the top. I was like, whoa, look at this guy. And that caught my attention. I'm like, okay. And then, eventually, you and I linked up for a podcast.
Definitely.
I think that's huge. And I think people need to get out there. If you've got your voice, don't be afraid. I don't think I ever thought I would start a podcast and start my own company. Mm-hmm. But when I look back on some of the toxic things I've seen in leadership, I thought, I think I can help people and help companies.
Yeah.
And actually help them, realize their potential.
It's a great,
that's what yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome, man. I'm happy for you. It's very cool. It's an awesome journey. And, I also never thought I would start a podcast, like I never thought. I've been listening to podcasts now for probably 2 years, quite steadily. And, I always had the negative belief inside me, like, oh yeah, well, I will never have a podcast. I mean, I'll listen to these guys, but I'll never why would I have a podcast? And then when I transitioned online and I started entering this space more and getting to know people and kind of, meeting more and more successful people in the online space and in the business space over here away from what I was doing before, I realized like, well, why don't I just do a podcast? I have a lot of value to give and I have a lot of people that I need to help get their word out. It's a great platform to help spread value. I'm having amazing conversations with people one-on-one anyway. Why not put it out on a podcast, right? And then I realized, you know what, actually, that's a wonderful platform to meet people. So I was looking from a bit of a selfish perspective as well. It's like a great networking platform. And I'm not shy to tell people that. I say it all the time because I believe anybody who wants to go to make an impact needs to touch people. And this is a great way to do it. So anyone listening, if you want to do a podcast, I encourage you just to do it. It's just do it. Find somebody who knows how to do it. Find yourself a mentor or a course or just wing it. Whatever you want to do, action is important. Just make it happen. Just make it happen. I made my podcast in a month. All right. I went from not even considering it to 30 days later, I launched number 2 right under Gary Vee. Now, I did not stick number 2 very long, but I don't care. I hit it on my launch week and it was awesome. I'm still in top 100 or so, so that's good. But just do it. You know, it's the entrepreneurial journey. What's the saying? Um, Go to the edge of a cliff and throw off some nails and wood and build a plane on the way down, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing with podcasting, starting a business, going out and being a consultant, whatever it is you want to do, grow into the person that you're meant to be, become that person now, believe it before you see it, and just do it, right? That's what it's really all about, huh?
Yeah. Basically, I mean, look at where you want to be. Just say, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah,
And then once you make that decision, just reverse engineer and say, okay, well, now what do I got to do to make it happen?
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
Huge. That's super wise. You guys catch that? Reverse engineer it. Figure out what you want and work it backwards. You know, I one of my mentors talks about reverse engineering all the time, and I do it every day now. I never used to, but now I do it every day. I reverse engineer like a 5-year goal, and I work it all the way back to hourly today. And it's essentially the same backwards. Every day it's the same things I write down. I'm tweaking stuff, and each day it's like, okay, well, what's the most important 3 things towards today's thing that I got to do? 1, 2, 3, boom. Let's do those things first, right? And then just keep doing that, and by 5 years from now, I already know what's going to be there because it's already set in stone. You just have to, click down the time and take the steps, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, you hit it right on the money.
Mm.
I mean, that's basically the easiest way for people to understand that. It's going to be there if you stick to the plan now.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, it's the consistency and the discipline as you keep going along. And that goal you had, 5 years from now, for example, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
It's going to be there.
Yeah.
It's going to be there. It's going to be waiting for you.
Yeah. In my mind, it's done. It's literally done.
Yep.
It's done. Just
yeah.
putting down the time. It was similar, a completely different topic, but we'll just touch it for half of a second. How easy it is to get things, quote unquote, done. The reason I'll bring this up now is because my wife and I were talking about it a minute ago. So last May, I decided that I just wasn't going to drink alcohol for a year. Just made a decision. Just woke up in the morning and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to drink for a year. I want to see what happens to my body. I want to see how I feel. And I'm just going to do that. And I had friends and people ask me like, oh, it's going to be hard, man. How are you going to go out and hang out with your friends? And how are you going to do stuff? And what are you going to do? It's going to be hard. And I just thought it's already done. It's literally already done. I'm just waiting for the time to tick down and I don't care. It's off my mind. It's completely gone. I have no problem with it whatsoever. And I think it's the same with a big goal you want to accomplish. Just say that you're doing it. It's done. Reverse engineer it, make it happen. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and you're exactly right. For example, you're talking about your podcast, me setting up mine, setting up the businesses, doing what we do.
Mm-hmm.
You, for example, you lived in Canada, now you're in Italy. People, a lot of people would never even think about those things. You make up your mind and you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. People ask all the time about moving because I've moved a lot. I went from working in the States to Europe, working in Europe. Then we went to Asia for 10 years, lived in multiple places in Asia, and then over here to Italy. And every time we move, it's like you're starting from scratch. You have to find new business contacts. You need to start again. You need to build a network around yourself, get established in the community, enter the society, learn some language, figure out the monetary system, get your healthcare in order, taxes. Like it's a big deal moving around, but we do it regularly. And people always say like, how do you do that? And I just say, we pack our bag, we buy a ticket, and we fly there. It's really that easy, and once you get there, you figure it out. Right?
And here's the thing too, Aaron, is getting out of your comfort zone.
Love it.
Because the first time you do it, and if you really catch that travel bug and getting used to being around other cultures and societies and seeing different things and having the opportunities that it presents to you and accepting them, next thing you know, you're like, okay, where's the next place I'm going to go? Yeah. What's the next thing I'm going to do? Because basically what you did by moving, you got out of your comfort zone. And that's basically kind of on a leadership level. You made a key decision in your life. And now you made that jump, and now that's your baseline. So that was like the goal. Now it's your baseline. You're standing on it. So now you just keep climbing that ladder and going to the different places.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives you amazing confidence in your abilities to adapt, simply moving around and knowing that okay, I can land in a foreign land. I can go get myself an Airbnb, and a couple months later, I'll be financially secure with my documents. It's fine. I can figure that out. It gives you self-confidence that, the world is mine and I can do what I want with it, rather than being fearful and just kind of shackled into a box,
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good. I like that. I like that analogy there.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Cool. All right. Well, I've enjoyed our conversation, very, very much here. I love leadership and talking about it. I want to be respectful of your time here. I don't want to keep you too long. So, any final thoughts on leadership? Anything like that you want to touch on before we let you go here?
Yeah, I would tell people, you want to be a good leader. You've got to start with yourself. You have to have a self-awareness and know who you are. And not only know who you are, but you've got to have a basic understanding of how to treat other people. If you can start out with just basic respect, it's going to take you a long way.
Absolutely. Deep. I love it. All right, Danger Doug. For the viewers and the listeners out there who want to find you on social media or your websites, where can they go find you online?
Yeah, I like to hang out on LinkedIn a little bit. I think it's a great platform, especially if you're a business professional. My podcast is going to be coming out pretty soon. That's going to be The Truth with Danger Doug and Tommy Guns. He's going to be my co-host. And my website is anchorstrategiesllc.com. I try to tell a lot of people, I was trying to come out with some videos and stuff, but I tell people, hit me up at the website. That's anchorstrategiesllc.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. But I also tell people, if you want to bring in people, and I bring in not just myself, but depending on the situation, a team of people, maybe a guest speaker. But we try to go in and actually get a no kidding assessment, because every situation is different. Every company is different on what they're trying to do. If I'm dealing with a startup company, I've had people, hey, how are we going to handle this? We got to hire all these technical experts. Yes and no. And because a lot of times you want to hire somebody that's moldable, that believes in what you're doing. You can hire somebody that's super technical, for example, but if their heart's not in it and they don't believe in your vision, then now you've got a big problem.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things like that. But yeah, definitely those are the things. And like I said, the podcast should be released out by iTunes, hopefully pretty quick within the next week.
Yeah, perfect. All right, amazing. All those links are in the show notes. Danger Doug, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your wisdom on leadership. I appreciate you here on the Growth Podcast. And I'm looking forward to having me. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to your podcast. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, definitely, brother.
All right. Thanks again.